All right, how's it going, gentlemen? This is your main man, Scott McKay, coming at you again with another snippet from the summit as part of the Mountaintop podcast from X and Y Communications. Guys, I hear a lot of you out there, when I talk to you, when you write in, telling me, man, it just feels like I don't have control over my situations with women. When I ask a woman out, she can accept me or she can reject me, and it seems like I'm an innocent bystander based on her whim. Or even if I'm in a relationship with a woman, it seems like she's happy, she's unhappy, she's safe, she's unsafe, no matter what I do, and it really gets me stressed out. That's what you guys are telling me. Well, listen, what happens is when you feel like there's a situation that you don't have control over, cortisol levels rise. Old familiar fight or flight response kicks in and clouds your judgment. When you have high stress situations going on often in your life, or even there's a continuous state of high stress going on in your life, it keeps you from thinking out of the box and finding a way to control situations that you previously thought you didn't have control over. So let me give you a couple quick situations. All right, let's say you're asking a woman out and she says, I have a boyfriend. Well, your immediate cortisol-driven fight or flight response would be, this is a rejection. She's telling me she doesn't like me. This is out of my control. When, if you were calm, cool, and collected and were thinking more in terms of what you do have control over, you could say to her, well, is that really true? Or are you just saying that because we just met each other and I need to do a better job of making you feel safe with me and know that I'm a good guy? Well, you may get a different response from her. But most men are thinking to themselves, well, man, I could never say that to a woman because it would be too vulnerable. She could say yes or no. But here's the thing. You have control over the situation again by expressing to her a desire to know the truth versus whether you need to make her feel safer and more comfortable. You have total control over that. You see how this is completely thinking out of the box? And this sort of situation that I'm talking to you about right now can transcend anything having to do with a woman and translate to almost any other area of your life as well. Let me give you a real world example. As some of you guys know, I run a BMX team. One of the dads decided to publicly badmouth one of the sponsors. As much as I didn't like to do it, I had to kick him and his son off the team because it says in the rule book you can't say anything bad against the sponsors. And, anybody who's ever run a team that has sponsors knows that that would pretty much be the cardinal sin. You start badmouthing the sponsors, unfortunately, you can't be a member of this team anymore. Well, this particular gentleman, the dad, got very upset with me and tried to leverage my rule book against me, saying the way the rule book was written, he was finding a little loophole in there that may possibly mean it was okay to do what he had been doing and that his kids should still be able to ride on the team. Well, what actually happened was, as soon as he stood his ground and refused to apologize to the sponsor and take his text down publicly disparaging that sponsor, well, his wife and his son got very upset with him and wanted him to reverse the course. But he steadfastly refused to take down his public sentiment about the sponsor, and he had to live with the results. Well, in this situation, as you might imagine, my cortisol started to rise until I kicked back and thought to myself, I am the owner of this team. I am the one who wrote the rule book. If worse comes to worse, all I would have to do is revise the rule book to say, I reserve the right to excuse anybody off of this team with or without cause. And then he wouldn't have any recourse at all. Right? Now that's thinking out of the box instead of simply reacting to something that you think you don't have control over. Now, as it turned out, everything turned out fine, and I didn't have to rewrite the rule book. The gentleman actually got a hold of himself, and it was no big deal after that. But look at the difference in mindset. In one situation, my cortisol is rising because I feel like this is out of my control. Whereas when I look at the situation out of the box, I realize, oh, there's something I very much can control and will control if I need to, which causes me to look at the whole situation with much better judgment. So what does all this have to do with you? Well, here is the secret of the universe here. When you get your life back under control, and by that I mean you start focusing on those things you can control rather than worrying about those things you can't control, it's easier to let go of what you actually never could control to begin with. Because, after all, you can't control it. It's not on you. It's not your fault if it goes wrong. And if it goes right, well, it's almost a happy accident. When you focus on what you can control, both your energy and your efforts are focused much more tightly and much more effectively. So going back to talking about women here, consider that you're approaching 10, 15 women a week, and you already realize that if she has a boyfriend, that's out of your control. If she just decides she isn't available to you, that's out of your control. But if you're having a good conversation with her, you decide the two of you are getting along, it is absolutely within your control, if you're both available and like each other, to make plans with her. You focus on those situations where you did have control, you do what you got to do, feel good about yourself, and then it becomes much easier to let go of those 6 or 8 situations out of 10 maybe out there where the woman just wasn't a good fit for you, she wasn't available, and it just wasn't going to work out. You'll actually forget about those women because you got 3 or 4 or 5 other women who are perfectly willing to hang out with you, and you'll be much more able to focus your time and energy on having a positive experience with them. You'll start forgetting about the situations that didn't go well, that were beyond your control actually, because you have so many other things that are now at the forefront of your mindset that you can control. Put this one to the test, gentlemen, and see just how well that mindset shift works for you. Want to talk about this or anything else? Scott@mountaintoppodcast.com. Be good out there.